Welcome, Anna.
Hello, everybody. That day, Mac, was today. So, yay! It's not an easy name to pronounce. But yeah, so as you all are settling in, welcome, welcome. Today I have a really great and super diverse panel when we're going to be talking about advertising after the algorithm. There's a lovely doggy over there, so I think my co-panelists have been pushed further away, but Rachel, Brian, Zach, make your way this way, please, so we can get started. I hope we're all matching the level of melt that everybody's experiencing this week. It's an interesting week. So as an industry, we've spent the better part of the last decade chasing various things like optimization, better targeting, better measurement, better automation. You fill in the better word that you want. But one thing is really interesting to contemplate is whenever everybody is using the same techniques and has access to the same tools, what is it that really creates the advantage and what becomes the baseline? So I think that's one of the things that we're going to really dig into today. And so let me introduce the panel. So Rachel, tell us who you are.
I'm Rachel Varden. I'm the Commercial Development Director at TripAdvisor. Lovely to be here.
Wonderful. We've muted Zach.
Hello. Oh, there we go. Hi, I'm Zach Dugo, founder and CEO of The Cool Company.
Hi, all. I'm Brian Benedict, the Chief Revenue Officer of the Weather Company. We don't control the weather, but we can help you, especially here, we can help you get through it. How's that?
We appreciate that, Brian.
I was going to say, Brian, can we just direct all our complaints to you this week? Because
Everyone thinks we're the weather people, like that we fork. That's not our job.
Okay, well, I guess we can put that in our TripAdvisor reviews for next year.
For sure.
Nice. Yeah.
So,
Full circle.
There's a
Love
budding
it.
partnership here for sure.
ooh. And this is how business happens in Cannes. So I did mention that we've spent 10 years optimizing. If you were here last year in Cannes, there was a lot of talk about the algorithm, and algorithm was coming. And a year later, the algorithms appeared to be here, at least looking at the signage outside and all of the topics that we're discussing. So I want to start by asking, well, what really changed in that 1 year now that, sometime in that past year, the algorithm had arrived? What happened? When? How did we react? Rachel.
I think it's incredibly different conversations this year, which I am very excited about here generally. I feel like for me, certainly in travel, it's been like we've been chasing the dream of personalization pretty much since the birth of the internet, right? Like what is the elusive connected traveler, right? Like travel is the most complex ecosystem. It's also the most precious part of our disposable income. And it's really complicated to plan. And so everyone has been trying to solve for that. So it's kind of not a new thing we've been trying to solve for or a new topic for us, I suppose. And suddenly we actually have the ability to do that, and that's what really excites me with the place we're in now, is that suddenly you have at your fingertips the opportunity to have answers and very contextual planning for who you are in that moment. And so the advertising opportunities that come with that, I think are, we're early stages with that, but that's very, very exciting.
I'm extremely excited about that as a regular consumer because that travel recommendations are so important when you're planning travel. And so a great example would be if you're planning to come here for holidays, which a lot of unfortunate people tend to do when we are in town for Lions. And I always feel bad for them because, all the beaches are closed. There's you can't get a table anywhere, etc. Zach, how about you? Where's the algorithm finding you?
Yeah, I think one of the things we specialize in is personalization through our product Cool AI and also through elements of what we do with dynamic creative, where like weather data, you get a different creative if it's sunny versus it's raining. I think what's changed a lot for our business and what we've seen the last year is the speed at which personalization can happen and the effectiveness at which. I mean, just think about where AI was a year ago when you prompted your ChatGPT, your Grok, or your Perplexity versus now. And so the important like performance improvement across that speed and that detail is yielding way better results, and I think we're going to continue to see that improvement.
Yeah. Brian, you're at Weather, you're known as innovators in the advertising industry. How have you approached the algorithm?
Well, maybe to continue what's interesting last year to this year, right? Last year, I think, was a lot of ambition around AI. This year, it's real. I mean, there is a lot of application happening, today and this week. And, for us as a business that's grounded in science and technology, AI is redoing everything in our company, and now it still requires quite a bit of human intervention, which we'll talk about more. We have 100 meteorologists on our team that are interpreting and providing meaning and context to a lot of AI models and forecasts. But it's fascinating how quickly, to Zach's point, this is all moving. From the advertising standpoint, as I think Zach indicated, weather is an interesting signal for consumer intent. Mm-hmm. It provides a lot of contextual insight. So we're infusing that into everything we're doing on the advertising side, both on the platform but also off our platform with partners. So it's a super exciting time, and there's a lot happening. I think we're all trying to get our arms around this, but it's moving quite quick.
It's kind of interesting to contemplate about just a year between last CAN and this CAN, when, to your point, a lot of things went from pie-in-the-sky ambition to actual real pilots and results that people have. Now, consumers in their day-to-day, because of these changes, expect more relevance, probably more than ever before. And so what does relevance really mean today beyond just, the usual, the right time, right place, right opportunity? Is there a different definition that we can look for? Brian, we'll start with you.
Yeah, to us, relevance is everything. Back to your original question, optimization got us to scale. It got us to 300 million monthly active users around the world, which is exciting. But moving forward, the more understanding and contextual relevance we can add to that equation, it's about meeting folks in their mindset. That's really important to us, and I think it makes the ad less interruptive. It makes it more content feel and content driven. So for us, we see upwards of 20% higher ROI with weather infused ads versus those that aren't. I mean, it's meaningful, and it's something we talk a lot to our partners about in terms of coaching them as to how to properly use the platform.
That's amazing. Zach?
Yeah, so one of the things that we do at Cool AI is where we adjust the creative based off of data, and we're adjusting the media mix as well and the performance of that, but then also taking in the signals from the publisher. Actually, I don't even know if Brian knows this. We started buying the weather inventory. It's fantastic inventory, by the way.
Thank you, Zach.
Yeah.
TripAdvisor's great
Another
too,
partnership
by the
we
way.
just made on this day.
There you go. TripAdvisor is great too. But AI actually really allows for the creative to be better at scale, that personalization to be better at scale, and I think consumers are embracing it. It's a better overall experience for the consumer as well.
Rachel?
I think it all comes down to relevance. I think that is probably the most important word that we can use for the time that we're in, right? Because in terms of the sites that are the most cited sites, these are the most. It's the most human-powered content, right? That has the highest citation rate, which is ultimately driving human decisions, and that's because it's highly relevant. So it's less about obviously we're very rapidly moving into the zero-click world. Human-powered content has never been more valuable than it is now, and so relevance. That's the era that we're in, basically.
That's interesting because you've mentioned, human in the loop, human-generated content is incredibly important, and I think, Zach, you're also flagging like, the impact of personalization in general on actual humans. So as much as we want to talk about algorithms, there's always a human part of this that is maybe obfuscated by just the coolness of the technology. So, Zach, I think that might be a good seg into my next question, which would be how we often talk about performance and creativity as kind of two very different things, and that need to be balanced. Somehow that performance maybe means less creativity, or more creativity means less performance. That seems like a really flawed way to me to think about both of these concepts. What are you thinking in terms of this whole topic? Are these really competing priorities for a marketer? And if they are, how are we solving for them now, given the technological changes?
Yeah, I think we used to think about those things in silos, to your point. And now where we've been focused is the big gains you have when you actually combine those elements. So if you have thousands of creative variations, like we do with our Cool AI platform, testing and mixing in with different versions of the media mix. So this mix of search, this mix of social, different creatives between them, and how they blend together, I think that's where we're seeing the biggest gains, sometimes upwards of 40+% in ROAS difference, when you're not just siloing, okay, here's my performance testing on the media, here's my testing on the creative specifically, but you're allowing those tests to run together. And AI now enables that at scale to work really well, where it just wasn't feasible or easy to do manually beforehand.
Interesting.
Yeah, I just was going to add, that we find this idea of this versus that, or the competing priorities, we find the most highly performant ads tend to be the most contextually relevant. There's a direct correlation between the two, and those partners that work with us that are not infusing ads with some type of contextually relevant weather trigger see less return. I mean, it's the data is very clear. So, and we try to be very vocal about that. Some listen, some don't.
Yeah.
But the partners that really lean into us, they are find higher return.
I think it's also been kind of a reductive place, that this debate that we've been in for quite a long time. For us at TripAdvisor, again, all comes back to relevance, but we use AI as a conduit, I suppose, to unlock, this incredible data set that we have. We have an amazing content studio, but we use, AI has supercharged that to the technology behind it to be the conduit to unlock this treasure trove that we've been sat on for the whole time, which I think is the sweet spot between those two things, between the creative and the performance side. Yeah.
I'm just dreaming in my head about, a very customized recommendation, polished, put together for like a family trip to probably not Cannes, but somewhere that you could probably really easily deliver now, given the technology.
Yeah, and for example, we've got a product called TripAdvisor Highlights, where we can essentially we can mine our site, find the most, positive sentiment, the most relevant reviews based on that particular demographic that the brand is looking to target, and we can create videos in the hundreds or thousands in a week versus what would have taken an incredibly, and it's all assets that we already have on our site. So yeah, that excites me immensely, that we have this very powerful tool that makes things faster, and the output is fantastic, to be honest.
Yeah, Rachel, I will add, as a longtime TripAdvisor customer, for years, last year I took my family through Austria and Italy, and TripAdvisor curated that entire experience for us. And it was noticeable on how much better the recommendations were. So kudos to your team.
I'm very glad to hear that.
Amazing. Okay, so one natural side of this is, well, to understand what's working and what isn't, we need some type of measurement framework, right? So, Brian, as measurement in this space continues to evolve, what should marketers be paying attention to more now that we're in this transition period from ambition to first real implementations of algorithms?
Yeah, I think it's a relevant question because there tends to be this correlation between outcome-based marketing and pure performance, right? This bottom of the funnel, which I think is a little misleading. I think marketers, in my view, need to look at the full funnel. There's brand metrics at the top that are super important to this, right? So I think a more holistic look from top to bottom is the way successful marketers, should look at this. And I think we get a little obsessed with the bottom. Not to say it's wrong, but I just think we need to take a bit more of a holistic view on it, particularly in this environment.
Yeah, I think it becomes like if you can measure something, you can loosely prove that it's kind of working, but there are some things that just won't ever fit that bill, right?
For sure, yeah.
Yeah. But Zach, any opposing view from an umbrella kind of approach, or?
Yeah, I think just piggybacking off of also what Brian has said, and you have to keep in mind there's certain things like, okay, I saw this brand ad and media mix model, I saw it on Wednesday, and then I bought something on search on Friday, and the technology is getting better. It's not great yet at telling us all of the elements that mix in. I do think we're headed more to a place where instead of people breaking things out like, okay, I've got $1 million a month for search, $1 million a month for social, $1 million a month, we're going more towards, okay, here's my reach goal. Now, anything in the digital channel that can help achieve that for the most effective price, or my conversion goal. That's one thing that we've been focused on a lot with our Cool AI product, but I think you're going to start to see more of that. And there will be elements of things that you can't always measure, and that's why it's still good that us humans exist until the robots take over.
The robots still don't buy for us, so that's, I guess, good for
Not yet.
us as a species. Or Rachel?
I think I'm a full funnel galley. I'm very much with you on that. I actually think also it's about if it's really important at the moment, like for your brand, what problems are you solving for consumers, which I think is incredibly important. Like that's how you're going to appear within the LLMs, right? Like that visibility is based on relevance, and that has got to be really, really sharp, I think, because as we, again, hurtle through the AEO world, I think it has to be abundantly clear what problem your brand is solving for consumers.
Well, and to your point with the LLMs, right, we see SEO really taking a lot of publishers on this melting ice cube, right, and journey,
Yeah.
which it's happening to all of us, right, particularly on the open web.
Yeah.
And, I'm not sure it's something we can stop necessarily, but hopefully it stabilizes at some point.
Yeah, and I think one of the products we've just launched is our content discovery, which is we do an AEO audit for brands and travel adjacent brands, and we're essentially asking the brands, how is it that you want to appear within these LLMs, right? What problem are you trying to solve? And because of TripAdvisor's citation rate, we can then create a flywheel of content because it cites, very well on TripAdvisor, and then within the LLMs. And it's really, really interesting to drill down to that question because brands need to be able to answer that very, very effectively, immediately in the AEO world. So, yeah.
That's a great point. And one of the things that I've been wondering about is consumers don't make the same kind of splits that we as marketers do. Like they don't care what's a social channel versus what's a search channel versus what's another channel. To them, it's all just content. And content and experience, right? So if consumers don't look at the world the way we do, then what is it really that justifies our interrupting their regular journey through internet content today? Is there a secret sauce there that we can hone in on?
Yeah, and we tend as marketers, right, to overthink things, but we're
Just
also
a little.
we're paid to overthink. I guess that's part of it. Yeah, I think back to the interruption. I go back to what I said earlier. The more contextually relevant an ad is, the less interruptive it seems to be. So we're all in this quest to try to make ads feel, look, and taste like content. I'm not sure if we can ever get quite there, but we can get close. And that's why the context and the mindset approach to the ads is super important.
Yeah, I double down on what Brian's saying. and we're getting better at it. Like, think about how contextually relevant the ads are now versus 4 years ago versus 10 years ago.
9 day, yeah.
Right, 9 day. And so I do think it'll eventually get to that point where the consumer's almost like, is this an ad? Is this an ad? Which it makes it a great experience, and maybe some consumers will be like, oh, I do want to make sure it's clearly notified to me, because in some places it is really, really, really good, and in some places there's still a lot of work to catch up, and I think we're going to keep moving towards that super contextually relevant, and the ad feels like content. And once we can really, for lack of better words, fully hit that blend, that'll be interesting to see how consumers receive that.
Yeah, I mean, we do definitely overthink ads and overinflate ourselves, but for sure. But
not us, Rachel.
no, not us. Apart from us, of course. But
Some other us.
and all of us, all of us here. But if an ad is making, like, thinking of this world of relevance that we're in, if an ad is making my life easier, if I saw an ad for that fan around your neck before Cannes, and I'll be buying one next year. I realise I didn't see an ad, but
I'm in too, Rachel.
I'm
in.
the ad.
I'm in.
I'm the ad.
I told
I have
you.
to tell you all, this is like the best product you can buy today. And so I bought it by accident like a week before coming to Cannes. It has a cooling plate, so you press a button, and it feels like somebody put a bag of ice on the back of your neck. And honestly, guys, this is like the only thing that's made this week semi-survivable. So
if that's not contextual relevance, I don't know what is.
And everybody is awestruck right now on
There you
their
go.
faces.
Taurus did not spend $10 million to sponsor that moment.
I mean, they probably should have. If they want to give me a call, sure. That's. But yeah, it is life-changing. Yes. So thank you for.
No, thank
for
you.
that.
But I jokes aside, when you're planning whatever it might be, a luxury holiday, a holiday with your family, there are absolutely essential items that can make or break your trip. And if you get an ad, the right price, the right time, that's great. That's really, really great. So, yeah.
Is that an ad then, in the traditional sense of how we think about ads?
I think it is.
Uh-huh.
I think it is. It's just we're moving to a world where the results, the prompts that people have put in, and the results that they're getting, the actual content they're getting back is more relevant. So it's just a better ecosystem for an actual relevant ad to sit in.
I would say relevant, informative, perhaps shoppable, investable, right? That's
And what they
not
want, yeah.
Right. It's not an ad. That's not an ad of yesteryear, right? That's a new approach.
Yeah, it's starting to bring us digital marketers closer to how some traditional marketers look like at shopper marketing budgets and similar things, where all of these vehicles actually exist. And the interesting thing for me is, we've talked a little bit about, we mentioned the open web a couple of times, and this is an area where platforms have really had a massive advantage on the open web. Can the open web and should the open web compete with this, or is the path to open web survival more of a hedged garden, walled garden kind of scenario?
Yeah,
What do you think?
I tend to be an optimist, Anna, by nature. So a company that's quite invested in the open web, I want to say yes.
Yeah.
But to your point, it's not easy. Right now there is some competitive advantages there for the walled gardens. I think there's been, over the last 15, 20 years, some points along the way where open web has had to pivot. Here's another one. So it's nothing that this community hasn't seen before. It's a big one for sure.
Yeah.
And we have to solve for this. But I again, as an optimist, I want to say yes, we can compete.
Good. I like optimism. Zach, we can compete? You're building the set of tools to...
No, it's all downhill from here. No, I'm just kidding. I do think the open web can compete and thrive, and I think on one side where SEO is hurting the supply side and publisher side, on the other side, right, publishers like TripAdvisor and the Weather Company are coming up with new innovative ways of driving better content, better experiences for consumers, different types of experiences where people come directly instead of through the search engine, through the social experience. And so in one way it hurts, another way it helps. And I think you're going to have some publishers really stand out that embrace AI and utilizing it for their own benefits in different ways. And the ones that don't, I think, are going to have a lot more challenges. So it's about picking up the gains where you can.
Yeah, I think on that point we're still in a siloed place with it, and it will evolve, and the two will just become closer and closer and closer until we are in the new ecosystem.
It's really interesting thinking, going back to where we started, kind of like, hey, a lot has changed in a year. What do you think? Is it going to take another year? Is it going to take 3 years? How long are we going to be in this transitional period between the previous ecosystem and to borrow Brian's optimism, the more stable, more attractive one, scaled, nice, relevant, working?
Yeah, I would say on a no crystal ball here for sure. I think this is a multi-year process. I think this is, back to pivots that we've had to make over the last 15, 20 years. This is a big one. I don't think this happens in a year. I think this is a multi-year. So I think this brings us out, into 29, 2030, and see where we are. The world is going to look different for sure.
Okay, 2030, I like that timeline. Zach?
I definitely think it's a multi-year process. Maybe I'm going to go with 2029. I'll take the under by a year. I'll be controversial.
I don't know. I think we're in it. Now.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Now?
I think we've moved out of, I don't know. I mean, no, I really don't know, but I don't think it's a multi-year. I think we are very much in the new world. I think we're out of the what if mode. So I'm going to say 2 years.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one thing to add to that, I feel like the thing that requires the most change is the human behavior element. I think the technology over the next 24 months there'll be the real changes also in human behavior to deal with where the technology is and get comfortable with where it is, which in itself, that will be a process.
Well, it's a great point you make, Zach, because we tend to underestimate how long that takes for consumers. We live as marketers in this early adopter world. We know that. A lot of consumers don't. It takes time for these new behaviors to take shape. So that's part of the reason I look at this as a multi-year, because we have to follow the consumer.
I actually read a very interesting stat. This is the first year, 26. What year are we in? We are in 2026. It's the first year the majority of US travelers will use AI to plan their trip. And that curve has obviously been insane. So 65% will use it this year. Yeah.
And that stat last year was probably
it was 33%, I think, last year.
Okay.
So it's a dramatic curve, not a curve.
So if it keeps going that way, then that's everybody next year.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that's interesting. So I want to pivot us, because we've been, I think, very optimistic and very almost bullish on all of these transformations. And so if we're sitting here a year from now, and hopefully everybody's wearing one of these, so we're melting a little bit less. Thank you. What would be a mistake that somebody could make, so that, not that we would make fun of them next year, but they would derail progress and advancement with algorithmic marketing?
Yeah, and I would offer one or two thoughts. I think going too slow, not testing and learning, you're going to make some mistakes in this new world. It's okay. I mean, I think we need to give permission to our teams to do that. I think organizations that are looking for perfection all the time, it doesn't work in this environment. You have to test and learn. And we like to do that at the Weather Company. We have a CEO that gives a lot of permission to make mistakes. Just don't make them again. Don't make them twice. But we love that, because it allows the product teams, the eng teams, the commercial teams to try a lot of new things. So I would say move with speed, be fast. Yes, you're going to make some mistakes. That's okay.
So you have both the kind of free reins to do this and presumably budget, right?
Correct.
And are you hiring? Because that sounds dreamy.
Sounds like a Nirvana
Yes.
environment. We had a new management team come in a couple of years ago, and it's really rethought all of this. And again, I think a lot of organizations, you tend to cascade from your CEO, and I really love what he does here, because once again, it's about, hey, we have a business to run. We've got 300 million folks that count on us every month, but we're going to break some things, and that's okay. So we love that air cover.
That sounds great. Zach?
I think there's some, and even some brands that we've spoken to who have taken really a strong, like, we're not touching this AI, like, we don't believe in this. I don't think this is gonna, move the needle, or this is too dangerous, it's too risky. And if you're in that camp too long, and it's okay to take a little bit of a wait and see approach, but if you're in the it's dangerous, it's risky camp for too long, you're going to wake up 2 years later, all of your competitors and other brands are going to be at a different level, and you're going to be playing serious catch up. And I think it'll be a really big challenge to then play catch up at that point.
And is it different now because of the length of time it takes to have a big advancement? Like, again, we're talking about a year's difference. So, like, to your point, if you're too slow out the gate, then maybe a year is too much, and you're out in the water and dead. Kind of is that?
Yeah, and to Brian's point, it's like we're living in this, right? But if you think of, some brands that we work with, they're small, they're not on the cutting edge, and like, oh, that seems risky. But if you're not taking a test and learn approach, or you're taking a very risk-off approach a year from now, 2 years from now, I do think you're going to be in a position where you've left a lot of potential gains and opportunities on the table. And so to your point of like a year from now, we'd be like, oh, that might not have been the best direction. I think embracing the try it part is, I think, really important.
Yeah, sorry. Wow. I do agree. I also think it's about, well, first of all, humans are incredibly important in all of this, both as consumers but also as employees. The critical thinking element or critical thinking has never been more important than it is now. So I think, yes, it's about embracing, but being intentional about what it is that you're trying to achieve. And I think that's an interesting area that we're in now. We're obviously now hyper obsessed with tokens and how expensive they are, and actually, a lot of the time, for some companies, AI is more expensive than humans, and we're going round in that circle, and that will kind of normalize, I think. But it comes back to absolutely embracing it, knowing what a powerful tool this is. I mean, again, we're out of the is this going to happen era, but being intentional about why you're using it, I think, is important.
Okay, so humans are still important, thankfully. That's good. I was a little worried for us. And not only are we still important, we're in the center of this, but things are accelerating, and you want to have a try and test and learn quickly and then adapt kind of framework. Is that a good summary of what we talked about today? Anything missing?
For sure, and utilize the tools that are available to us. I think, the most valuable humans in this new world are the ones that know how the tools are to be used, right? And then we can add context and meaning to that. But if you're not diving in and utilizing these wonderful tools and system that we have, that's going to be problematic.
Wonderful.
And also, it's fascinating. My 9-year-old daughter, sorry, this is really random, but how my 9-year-old daughter uses ChatGPT is absolutely fascinating.
Right?
Fascinating.
Yeah.
So I'm watching. I'm like, okay, oh, that's actually really clever. Thank you.
This is an excellent piece of advice, if I can impart on anybody, is to find a small-ish child and see how they use technology, because it is so eye-opening. And so with that, I'm going to wrap us up and thank the panel. This is a great conversation.
Thank you.
We could keep going.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
See you all next year here again to see who's made the right predictions and who hasn't. So, yeah.
Thanks, Anna.
Thank you.
Thank you.